And action.
Welcome to an Intentional Marriage podcast where we are your hosts, Kristen and Chad Cottingham. And we are here to discuss all things marriage. Why? Because we know great marriages don't just happen. You have to be intentional.
You sure do, Kristen.
Yes.
And so, speaking of being intentional, it's been a week or so since our last podcast. What did we talk about last time? Do you remember?
I remember. It was all about staying connected through all different seasons of marriage. Ooh. And
good memory.
Yeah, you put me on the spot real quick there. Oh goodness. But no, and you know what? We're kind of along the same topic again this time regarding connection. But why don't you kind of introduce what we're going to be talking about today?
Okay. I've been a person. I was a teacher. I was a coach. I was a principal. I was the oldest child, and so I had all these things where I was naturally in a leadership role. And back in school, I was a quarterback or guard. All these things where I had to speak and I had to tell people what to do and how to do it. And so it became very easy for me. And so then when we got married,
it became easy for you to do what?
Speak the truth.
Okay.
But I was so quick to tell people, tell you, tell the kids, tell anybody else what they need to do or the truth about the situation in my eyes. But you reminded me a lot. That's what we're going to get into. I didn't always do it with love or in love. And I know that the Bible, there's a passage, Ephesians 4:15, it says, speak the truth in love. And I remember so often you used to tell me, Chad, I used to tell you, I'd say, Kristen, the Bible says speak the truth. And you say, yeah, but you're forgetting the most important part, in love.
Yes. So I'm reminded of one of our, earlier episodes where we talked about how real connection starts with real communication. And we talked about the importance of, that's the way we connect with communicating, and our words are the way we communicate. And we talked about the importance of having honest, open, and transparent communication. But the question that I've been thinking of as we've been preparing for this podcast is there a line? Can we be too honest, too open, and too transparent when it comes to our communication? And I think when we do, I think there is a line. And I think we cross that line and it becomes like not just honesty and truth, but it becomes brutal honesty. And because I think we're always supposed to be honest and truthful, but like you said, if we don't say it in a loving way, it's brutal honesty. And so I was kind of thinking of these two categories, or two parts of that verse, speak the truth in love. Speaking the truth in love, the other side is just kind of spewing the truth in haste. And I'm not saying hate, because in marriage, we're not prone to hating each other. Maybe in other, relationships. But anyway, I think our tendency, why we don't always speak the truth in love, is because we are just speaking in haste. And we're just saying whatever's on our mind. Whatever comes to our mind, it just comes right out without a filter.
Well, and you're right there, but I don't think that's the intent to speak the truth out of love. But life comes at us. Yes. The kids are pulling on us. They want dinner. They're asking. It's been a long day at work. Yes. There's been all these problems. And now it's 7:30 at night, and you said something to me. You did something. I'm like, what'd you do that for? Are you stupid? And just those words, there was no truth in that. But sometimes when we're tired, irritated, frustrated, so many reasons, we speak to our spouse, our kids, in a very unloving way that we don't intend to, mean to, but we do.
Right.
And it's not received very well.
No. And I'm reminded of the words of Jesus, and I think that's also in Proverbs. The Bible talks a lot about it, but out of the overflow of our heart, the mouth speaks. And so really, the essence of healthy communication starts with a heart check. Like, what is going on in our hearts in order for our words to come out? And I think of the times, like you just said, okay, when and why do we just kind of spew the truth or give brutal honesty instead of taking our time and speaking the truth in love? And you mentioned one, yes, we're tired. I think hungry, hungry, angry, tired, that HAT. I also think too, maybe we're approaching the conversation, we've got some pride, like maybe in your past experiences, you're like, well, I'm right and they're dumb and they just need to be told, so I'm just going to say it.
But from my experience,
are you justifying?
No, not justifying. And so,
well, okay, I'll just move on. I didn't mean to point the finger.
No, that's good, because in my mind, I'm right on many, many, many things. But my problem is I let people know that I'm right, and sometimes I would put them down or make them feel less than because you didn't do it my way and I told you I was
So basically, that's pride. So we can speak the truth. Yeah. Speaking the truth also requires an element of humility. But I think of another few reasons why and when we just blurt out, speak brutal honesty. We could have built up resentment towards our spouse.
Yeah, that's a great one, Kristen, because I was just thinking about that. Maybe there are little things that have annoyed.
Yes.
Little things, you first married, you're ignoring, you're letting go, and you're treating your spouse with love. But over time, these little things are starting to wear.
Yes.
It's starting to pick up, and now you're starting to build that resentment.
Yes.
That deep-seated, and you're angry, and you're seething inside, where your spouse has no idea.
Right.
I had no idea I was chomping or I was snoring, and it's just driving you nuts. And all of a sudden, over time,
these build up,
huge, and then you blow up like a volcano. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, what's that all about? What's the matter with you? Or are you psycho? And that's now I'm lashing back because I've just been lashed at. But if we'd had some honest communication,
yes,
or share some of these preferences earlier,
mm-hmm,
sometimes we don't get to that point where we're brutally honest.
Right.
We can be honest along the way.
Which, makes me think too, the built-up resentment makes us feel like brutal honesty or spewing the truth, snapping the truth is we feel like it's our last resort. Like, I have to be this way. I have to be so direct and brutal and just no filter because they are not getting it. My spouse, you're just not hearing me. But it might not be that you're not hearing me. It might be that I just kept all these things in. I've not clearly communicated and said these things in a loving way over time to where you're like, oh, I had no idea that you felt that way. All of a sudden, you're just blowing up at me. Built up resentment, unforgiveness. I think, too, another reason why we do this is maybe we're dealing with the same issue again and again and again. And finally to the point where we're like, how many times have I said the same thing? And you're the same result, that definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. Yeah. But so I think that's another reason why we blurt out and are brutal. And I think, too, we just don't have good communication skills. We haven't learned the benefits of our tone, timing, and using our favorite I feel statements instead of you always and you never. I think... if we're going to jump into that, you always and you never, man, those are some powerful statements. Through our years of marriage, I felt you threw that at me a lot. Yes, I did.
You never pick up your clothes. You always leave a mess in the kitchen.
You never listen to me. You never help.
And I would get so irritated and frustrated because to me, I was like, I want to try. I want to do better in these areas. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. And I would try and I'd succeed and I'd succeed and I'd succeed. And then I'd step back and I would falter. I would leave my clothes out again, whatever it was. And next thing out of your mouth was, you always do that. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it at all then because I've tried.
Right.
And I've been working, but I'm also human.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to communicate, right, to share with you, Kristen, please never use always and never with me because that's not true. Those words are it's all or nothing.
So that's not even that's brutal, but it's not even honest because it's, it's not true. Like you said, it's never, always, and never. Yes. Those are very extreme words. And you're right. I had to learn to dial that back. And
I wouldn't listen. I would start shutting you off.
Yes.
But it was until you started changing how you said it to, I feel like you disrespect me. I feel like I'm the only one pulling my weight around here when it comes to kids. I feel like you're never home. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, you're right. Maybe she has a point, because the other time, you talk about listening skills or communication, I wasn't listening.
Right.
I was turning off just your yelling, nagging, griping, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't tuned in.
Which kind of makes me want to backtrack a minute and kind of define what it means to speak the truth in love and, spew the truth in haste, right, or brutal honesty versus honesty. One, the speaking the truth in love, we are addressing the facts. We are addressing the situation. We are addressing the issue. The other side, the brutal part of it, is we're attacking the person. And there really becomes a shift in our communication when we start to make it personal. When we no longer see the issue as the issue, and now we're pointing fingers as our spouse as the issue. And now we're making it personal. And now we're attacking. And now we are coming at them. Yes. Instead of attacking the issue together, we've now, we've become enemies.
And Kristen, we're not the only ones. So many couples, this is where the worst fights start.
Yes.
Instead of addressing that issue, when you start, you're the worst, and all of a sudden you're now attacking me, and I felt attacked. What am I going to do? I'm going to get defensive.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, right now I'm lashing at you, and whatever problems or things you've done, I'm pointing that out, and how you're just like your mom, and how you're never, and all of a sudden, we are, from a loving husband-wife, we are at each other. I can't believe I said some of these things, and vice versa. It can go that quick because we can get so defensive when we get attacked.
Right. And that just, like you said, it just, like what you said earlier, you just tuned it out. You didn't hear me. And so until we really learned the I feel when I need form of communication, so I was saying, you never listen to me. You're always on your phone. You're not even paying attention. Instead of saying, I feel unheard. I feel unsupported when I'm trying to talk to you, and you're just over there on your phone, and I need you to put your phone down and listen. But if I'm like, you never listen to me, you're always on your phone, what are you going to hear? So it's really in our approach, we're addressing the issue out of love and wanting a shared desired outcome, rather than I just want to lash out, and I just want you to feel bad about this because I'm hurting, or I'm not getting a need met, or I'm frustrated.
Right.
So really learning how to rephrase or look at the situation as the issue and not the person, and then rephrasing our approach to I feel statements instead of you always, you never. I think that really gets us some traction in our relationship.
And you're 100% right, but sometimes that's hard to do. It's hard for me to I feel this and I think that. You're so right, but it's hard to do sometimes when we're in the heat of the moment. Kids are crying, whatever's going on, the phone's ringing,
right,
TV's blaring, and all of a sudden I feel, do you see what I mean? And so it's hard. Right. I know it's easier said than done. So how do we go from always and never and brutal to sharing that truth, sharing that concern in the right timing? Because I know it would just seem to be that timing for me in the tone. Because I know I would give you a tone that you didn't like. And a lot of times the timing and when you wanted to talk to me wasn't right.
Right.
Maybe right during the Lions football game or something.
Well, I think, in psychology, there's this phrase, the power of a pause. And I do think we need to have the self-control to where we don't just spew things unfiltered. Like we do pause and it could be like a 5-second just to say to myself, okay, is what I'm about to say helpful or hurtful? Like we can take a deep breath. We can take a 5-second quick check to be like, watch yourself. We know internally when we're kind of at that point where we just want to, lash out. Right. So I think, we do have to be like, okay, I really want to say this right now, but, the old bite your tongue type of idea.
No, Kristen, with this same category, as we keep moving down this road, some couples have told me, my husband always walks out of the room. He always walks out of the way. Well, maybe he's trying to compose his thoughts.
Right.
Maybe he's trying to walk away so he doesn't say anything hurtful or brutally honest. So there's times, whether either side you're on, you need to give them that time. Yes. And it doesn't mean we're not going to ever talk about it again.
Right.
But I need to say, I need a few minutes.
Exactly.
I'm going to step out. I'm going to take a drive. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to listen to my earbuds, whatever it is. And we're going to come back and talk in a half hour. Or maybe we can talk about this in the morning. So it isn't saying we're never going to bring it up.
Right.
But sometimes spouses are like, we're going to get this done now.
Oh, that was us.
We're not leaving until this is resolved. And that was me. I was like, we're not going to bed until it's resolved. We can't go to sleep angry. And I would just push this issue and it would get worse and worse and worse.
Yes. And so, you have to give yourself space. You have to give your spouse space. Because I think too, like when you went back to, I feel, okay, I know that to you or somebody that's just very direct, that might, and you're very facts-based. So for you to flip over to the feeling side, it's a little bit more difficult. But I guarantee, or I shouldn't say guarantee, I would bet that in the heat of the moment though, you are able to describe how you're feeling. So for you to go like, I am so frustrated right now. I am so, angry. I am so overwhelmed. Okay, so even just say how you're feeling and then say, I need some space. I need a few minutes. I have got to catch my breath. I have got to walk away. I mean, we've said that before. I've even added, you're driving me so crazy right now, which,
Well, and again, you now have turned it.
Yes, because we can't control our spouse. We can only control ourselves. And so I am responsible for the way I communicate to you. And I am my goal is to be a responsible adult that communicates in healthy ways. And that involves speaking the truth in love. And so if I'm not able to do this in the moment, I need to step back and say, I need some space. I am frustrated. I am overwhelmed. I can't even focus on what we're even arguing about right now. So we need to step back until we are able to address that situation and we're no longer in attacking the person mode.
And that goes back to the timing, the right timing.
Yes.
Maybe you get a sitter for the kids.
Yes.
You take a date night or whatever it is, a business meeting, whatever that means. And Kristen, I want to go back because I know, looking back at our marriage, that year 7 to 10, that 7-year itch, those were really, really hard years for us. We had 3 little ones at the house. I was working, I was teaching, I was coaching varsity basketball, gone late nights, gone the weekends. You were doing it all at the house. And all we did when we were together was fight. We fought. And I, during that time, so much wanted you to change. And if you would parent like me, and if you do it like me, life would be easy. What's the matter with you? And you were saying the same thing. Chad, if you would do this, and if you did that, and if you didn't, we're gone so long. And we were pointing the finger at each other to change. You need to be like me and vice versa. And it took us a few years of this crazy cycle, this crazy time, to realize, what are we doing? The only one we can change is ourselves.
Yes.
I had to say, you know what? I may be pointing a finger at Kristen. There's 3 pointing back at me. I've got to be softer. I've got to be more loving when I speak. She's right. I need to figure out more ways I can be home during the week to help her with those little kids. And so once I started looking at myself and you start doing the same, our marriage started to get better.
Yes.
Because no longer were we being brutally honest and pointing fingers and being volatile. We started going, yeah, you know what? I need to pick up my stuff. Mm-hmm. I need to spend more time in the Word. I need to... We started realizing we can only change ourselves. Mm-hmm. And when we realized that, all of a sudden our marriage went to the next level.
It really did, didn't it?
It did. But it was hard.
It was hard. It was. And yeah, I wouldn't want to go back to those years. And I know some of our listeners are in those years. But if you really, like what Chad just said, if you really look at yourself and say, what do I need to change? And what is it that I'm missing here? What is it that my spouse is trying to communicate to me? And not take things so defensive, and looking at my spouse as the coming at me and is my enemy. But most of the time there isn't a real issue in the middle of this that we need to address. Mm-hmm. And that requires wisdom and a lot of prayer and a lot of self-reflection. Mm-hmm. I know, like what you said, part of that, what do I need to change? I had to pray about that and say, like, Lord, what is it that is in me that I need to, is there something in me that's causing us to bump up against the same issue? And maybe it is my tone, and I'm always coming at you with the you always and the you never. I needed to stop that. I needed to change that. And I think too, back in those years of we were just kind of running on empty, and a lot of unmet needs between us because of just life in general. And so getting creative into meeting those needs, I was attacking you because I just needed so much more help at home. Yeah. And, once I stopped looking at you as the enemy, like, you're never home to help and I'm always the one doing everything around here. You know what? I started to get creative about outside solutions. Well, maybe I could rely more on outside help. My mom, your mom, they were always willing to jump in and help. Yeah, so
house cleaner, whatever.
There are creative solutions out there that I think we need to take advantage of.
Yeah, that's good, Kristen. As we wrap up, I want to encourage people, if you're in that stage where you feel like all you're doing is fighting and conflict and being brutally honest or what do we call it, hurtful in your haste, is our episode we did a few back was called What's Fun Got to Do with It?
Oh, yes.
Sometimes you guys, we've forgotten what we love. We used to have so much fun dating, first married, all these things we do, the travel, the drives, the picnics, impromptu, spontaneous. And for some reason, I know what reason, people get busy and kids, they stop. So I want to encourage you, go on those dates and say, we're not going to talk about any of these things. We're just going to go have fun.
Yes.
Because it gets back to I'm reminded why I want to keep working at this marriage. Why I want to be a better man and a better husband. Because I love this woman and I love being with her and having fun. But that gets lost in the busyness and the hardship of life.
Yes.
So if you didn't hear that one, go back and hear What's Fun Got to Do with It. Because you've got to be able to reflect on that and enjoy that time together.
And a good marriage is made up of fun and healthy communication, and they go hand in hand, don't they?
Mm-hmm, they sure do.
So, well, you guys, this has been a fun conversation, just kind of briefly talking about the upsides and
speaking the truth
upsides
in love.
Yes.
Speaking the truth in love. And that's really what we want to focus on. Not using it always and never, not being hasteful, but being helpful in our words.
Yes.
Our tone, using our tone, timing, all these things that we discussed are so important.
Yes.
And we just want to encourage you guys to keep hanging in there, because you have to be intentional. Because what, Kristen?
Great marriages don't just happen. You have to be intentional. So.
Well, thanks for joining us today, guys. Yeah. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.